Welcome in, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show. We are joined by 45 and soon to be 47, the man himself, President Donald Trump. And we wanted to start right off because I know you're in New York. You're in the middle of the trial. We appreciate the time. We were blown away by the crowd that you had in Wildwood, New Jersey. A guy I think you know, Mark Simone, said that he thinks you can win New York. Your campaign, we know, said Virginia and Minnesota are both competitive. Based on the reaction you're getting in New York and New Jersey, do you think you can make a run in that area in New York in particular?
Well, they say we're in play, and the beautiful thing about New York, you win New York, that takes their cheating out of play because they won't be able to. Well, any state that they win by cheating will more than make up for it with New York and New Jersey. So we have great polls. We were one up in New Jersey. We're very close to New York. You know, outside of the actual city, which now is so bad that I look, if I live here, I'm going to vote for the Republican no matter who, and Trump is sort of the good Republican. But, you know, Lee Zeldin's a great guy. He's totally supportive of us. If he would have been running today instead of 2 years ago, he would have picked up a 10-point difference. You know, he won close, but it would have been 10 points better. And I think New York is in play. I think Virginia, I think that New Mexico and Minnesota, I think there are a lot of states in play that people aren't thinking about. They're so dissatisfied with the worst president in the history of our country. He's the worst. Look, I don't have to convince you people. You know better than me. You're two of the people that might know better than me. He is the worst president in the history of our country, without question.
I think there's no question about that. I mean, you were speaking about a great guy, Lee Zeldin. A lot of speculation right now, Mr. President, about who your VP might be. Now, if you want to tell us who it is now, we're not going to stop you. But if you just maybe want to give us a top three,
Well, I won't do three, but I will say we have a lot of good people. And, you know, Lee will definitely be somewhere in here in terms of the administration. He's great. You know, he's a great lawyer, too. He's actually he was fantastic on the impeachment hoax when he was a congressman. And he'll be coming with me in some form anyway at a high level.
But Tim Scott in play, J.D. Vance in play. These are all names, names that are being talked about?
Sort of like a lot of people are in play. And I'm really a believer that you do it during the convention. You know, you really do it during the convention. I'm also, unfortunately, a believer that historically VPs, I don't think ever have helped. I think they can hurt a little bit, but they haven't helped. It's you know, you have one exciting day and then you're back to the president is running, but you need somebody that can be good just in case. That horrible just in case. You know, look, that's a big situation. You have to go with it, but just in case, and you need somebody that can ideally help you get the votes. But I will say the single most important ingredient is, will that person be a great president? That's a very important thing.
I'm sure you've seen some of the Kristi Noem stories. She might be the only person getting worse press than you on the left right now with the dog shooting story and then the Kim Jong-un story. You met Kim Jong-un. I'm curious what that relationship is like now. Does any of that story, is she still in the mix as a VP? Have you thought maybe she'd make more sense in a cabinet? How do you analyze stories like that as you go about making a choice?
Well, until this week, she was doing incredibly well, and she got hit hard. And sometimes you do books, and you have some guy writing a book, and you maybe don't read it as carefully. You know, you have ghostwriters, too. They help you. And they, in this case, didn't help too much. Now, she's terrific. Look, she's been a supporter of mine from day one. She did a great job as governor. And, you know, you look at South Dakota numbers. She's really done a great job. And in some form, I mean, I think she's terrific. A couple of rough stories, there's no question about it. And when explained, the dog story, you know, people hear that, and people from different parts of the country probably feel a little bit differently. But that's a tough story. And but she's a terrific person. She had a bad week. We all have bad weeks. She had a bad week.
If I can, Mr. President, and we're speaking to number 45, President Trump, and as Clay said, future number 47. Sir, this Cohen trial, this New York City trial where Michael Cohen testified, it would be hard to think of something that is both more absurd and more outrageous than what they're doing to you in New York. but it doesn't seem to be working. I just wanted to give you the chance to address everyone across the country. It seems like this is backfiring in the Democrats' faces of the Biden prosecution.
It's one of the most disgusting things that anybody's ever seen in the history of our country in terms of elections. It's third world country. What they've done is weaponize the DOJ, the FBI. They've weaponized. And you could see it coming with these people. They are truly the ones. They are bad for democracy. You know, they like to say a threat to democracy. They are a threat. And part of it is that we have a president that's totally, incompetent. But they are so bad what they're doing with this hoax. And, I have a gag order where many very important parts of it, I'm not allowed because we have a totally corrupt judge and a conflicted judge. He's conflicted like no judge has ever been before. And the mainstream media knows exactly what I'm saying, but they try and keep it down to a minor roar. No, highly conflicted. And this is a case that should have never been allowed. Alvin Bragg, the DA, who's a terrible DA, crime is rampant. I mean, violent crime is all over the city at levels that people have never seen before. And he's got like 20 guys sitting in there, assistant DAs, over absolutely what Jonathan Turley, what Andy McCarthy, what Mark Levin, all your friends, what every one of them said is not a crime. There's not a case. And I've been sitting there for almost 4 weeks in this icebox. I call it the icebox. And in front of a judge that's so highly conflicted, he should not be allowed to be doing this trial. And it's so bad for New York. But I had 2 other cases, too. I had Judge Kaplan and Judge Engoron, and they should not be allowed to even serve when you see what they did. So I've been set up with bad judges. It's so bad for New York. It's so horrible for New York what's taking place. But this one is going on. And literally every scholar, every legal expert, and you guys, but everybody has said that this is a case that shouldn't happen. Alvin Bragg, when he originally came in, said, there's no way you have a case here. He got angry. And then when they could have brought this case 7 years ago. They could have brought it 7 years ago, but they chose to bring it right in the middle of my campaign. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. There's no crime. I mean, Mark Levin was doing last night. His show is great, and he was going, there is no crime, and he's giving you 15 reasons why it's terrible. It's a terrible, terrible thing. But when you look at McCarthy and Turley and Greg Jarrett, who's fantastic, you look at all of these people, and they all say the same thing. I haven't seen anybody that says it's even a case. But
Mr. President, isn't it fair to say that
I'm not allowed to speak? Can you believe I'm gagged? They gave me a gag order where I'm not allowed to speak about major portions of the case.
Is this election already rigged, sir, given what they're doing to you? Is it already rigged? Because I don't see how we could say it's not.
Well, they're trying to rig it with this. This is their new form. And remember, I have a voice. So the truth is my poll numbers, you saw the New York Times poll today.
Oh, yeah.
My poll numbers are better than they ever were. Probably better than they would have been had this horrible hoax not taken place. And it's not only here. It's you have Fani in Atlanta. And you have deranged Jack Smith. He's a deranged individual. And he's got a problem in Florida because if you watch and you look at these reports, they caught them tampering with evidence. And he's got I think he's got some problems. And he always has had problems. He goes too far and he gets himself into trouble. But he's got big problems here. They caught him tampering with evidence and worse. As you probably see, that case is
Biden. I won't make you say it, but I think Biden is behind this. Not Biden himself, because he's not smart enough or mentally competent enough to be able to organize all of this anymore, which leads me into this. He's got guys having to help him walk to the helicopter, as you well know, across the lawn there. He can't read off the teleprompter. You see all the screw-ups on a regular basis. Do you really think he's going to be running against you? Do you think they'll let him debate you? Or do you think they're going to pull a bait and switch at the last minute?
I mean, I personally don't think so, but I've been saying that for a while. I personally don't think so, but,
you don't think he's going to run. You don't think he's going to run. Not that they're not going to pull a bait and switch, but you don't think he's able.
I think at some point he goes out. I think so. What do I know? I can only say that here he is, and he was never the sharpest bulb in the room, ever. And now it's so dangerous for our country. You know, we're dealing with Putin. We're dealing with President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un. We're dealing with these people that are 100%. They're at the top of their game, and they can't believe it. And this, it could lead to Third World War. We still have a little bit more than 5 months to go. And actually, if you really look, I guess toward the end of September, Pennsylvania starts. And so we're really talking about a lot less than that because we really have to think in terms of that when they start. In the old days, we'd have a one-day election and would have paper ballots and would have a lot of good things. Now we have elections that start 45 days earlier than they're supposed to. And they keep going. They keep going until they get enough ballots. This is their form of cheating. And I have a voice, so I'm able to talk about it. And it's never pleasant. I mean, it's never pleasant doing this, but we have to. These are fascists. But if they have a good congressman and they send him a subpoena, he might as well resign because he doesn't have a chance of explaining to people to vote for him anymore. So I have such respect for the American public because they fed them all this nonsense. It's just garbage. You take a look at what they've done. Well, look at this case. Look at the way it's playing out. Again, not one legal expert says they even have a case. There's not even a crime. And it's a very sad day in America, and it's a very sad day for New York. But you take a look at Atlanta with Fonnie and her lover, Wade, and, that's a whole scam. And Jack Smith, 2 cases, is a whole scam. The whole thing was done because they want to hit Biden's opponent, his political opponent, to see if they can get him over the line. I don't think it's going to work, I'll tell you, because you saw the crowd in New Jersey. It may have been the largest crowd ever for not just in New Jersey. I mean, it was well over 100,000 people. We expected 45,000. You guys saw the crowd.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think you've ever seen a crowd like that at a political event.
No,
absolutely. It was a great honor.
Mr. President, when
and
you're talking
we had a good time.
You're talking about. Well, we got to come to one of these. When you talk about the challenges,
I'd love you.
Yeah, we'll come hang out.
I'd love
Challenges
well, we have a number of them. We have a lot of them coming up. It really begins just about now. And when you get through a couple of more months, and we're going to be doing a lot, you'll come with me. I'd love to have you.
Oh, that'll be awesome.
We'd love that. We'd definitely come along. In terms of fixing the country, saving the country, sir, you mentioned some of the foreign challenges. I think, and you know this as well better than anybody. If you're looking at challenges for America right now, the wide open Biden border is absolutely top of the list. People are outraged. It's going to be 8 million at least. I mean, that's going to be the official number by the time votes are being cast. 8 million illegals under Biden. Who knows how many actually in the country. You've talked about finishing the wall, and you've talked about deportations. What can you tell us about the first 90 days of a Trump 47 presidency on those two issues?
Well, first of all, it's not 8 million. It's 15 million are already in the country, in my opinion. And a lot of them come from prisons and jails. They come from mental institutions, and I go a step beyond that, from insane asylums. You got a lot of terrorists coming into the country. No, we're going to have to deport. We're going to have a very large-scale deportation operation, and nobody wants to do that. We have no choice. It's not sustainable by any country. There's no country that a thing like this is sustainable by. You can't have it. I mean, I'm in New York right now, and you see what's going on with people. They're taking up. You don't have the use of parks. You don't have the use of schools and hospitals. It's the whole quality of life in our country is changing because of this. And nobody can say it's good politically. Now, of course, what they're trying to do is register people to vote, because that's another form of cheating also. Their two big forms are that. They're new forms that they're adding into their arsenal because they're bad at everything. Policy is no good. Look at Afghanistan, that disaster, the most embarrassing day in the history of the country. So their policy is no good. They want if they won, taxes are going to go up by four times for middle class, but 4 times. And, they're no good at policy. The only thing they're really good at is cheating. And they have 2 new methods. And one is the weaponization, which is what I'm putting up with, and others too. But I'm definitely I'm the key. There's no question about it. And then the other is having to register voters, because they're taking these people who can't speak English, who don't even know what this country is, and they're registering them and trying to get them out to vote. And I only implore the Republicans to be tough, because they don't play as tough a game, unfortunately. They're so much better on policy, so much better on so many, but they're not better when it comes to this stuff, fellas. It's a terrible thing. Terrible.
I know New York City well. You also know the Ivy League well because you're a graduate. You got called an anti-Semite, which is unbelievable considering your daughter is Jewish and you got Jewish grandchildren. Joe Biden said he ran for president because of Charlottesville, bought into the very fine people hoax. When you see his failure to stand up for Jewish people and for Israel's right to defend itself, how sick does it make you to your stomach? And also, how weak is the media to not remotely be holding him to the same standard they do for all the country as they did for you for Charlottesville by itself?
Yeah, that's true. So he is the worst president we've ever had in the history of our country, but he's the worst president that Israel has ever had in the United States. It's not even a contest. He's a horror show. And I'm the best president that Israel's ever had. I mean, what I've done for Israel between the capital and the Iran nuclear deal, by the way, let's not forget about that. That could have been the best of all, but they didn't do anything with it. They could have had a deal so fast with Iran. I would have had a deal. Iran was broke when I was president. They wanted to make a deal. Now Iran is a rich country again. Iran has $250 billion worth of cash because of the oil. And because we give them $6 billion every time there's a hostage trade, they end up with $6 billion. We gave them $10 billion for electricity to Iraq. But they're rich. They have $250 billion in cash right now. It's a tougher negotiation by a factor of 50. But I am the best president ever for Israel by far, and he's the worst president ever. And who would think it? Who would think it?
Not surprising to us, given Biden's history of failure on the foreign policy front, Mr. President. But
right.
In terms of, they've walked away from the Biden economy. You're not hearing about that, Biden's economy anymore. Inflation's still stubborn, people paying high prices. Why did this happen under this president, and what are you going to do to change things around when you win?
So when he came in, he stopped the oil, and when he stopped the oil, now he's let it go back to where I was because otherwise you'd have oil you'd be paying so much for gasoline that people wouldn't even believe it. But already it's getting close to $4, and in California it's over $7. It's creeping up very rapidly. But he stopped the oil, and that caused the inflation, very simply. And we're going to bring energy way down. Energy costs are going to be way down. And places like New England, where you have the highest energy costs, is New York, where you have the highest energy costs in the whole country by far. I'll be able to cut their energy bills in half and quickly. These people, that's what caused it. What they did with his stupid energy policies, he also made other countries rich. He made Russia so rich that they said, gee whiz, I'm going to go, a combination of that and Afghanistan, where Putin said, wow, I'm going to go and attack Ukraine now. He had oil up to almost $100 a barrel. When that happens, Putin makes his money from oil. They became rich and they attacked, and that's what happened. It's a sad thing. So sad to see what's happened to our country in a period of 3.5 years. But we're going to make it. We'll make it greater than ever before. You watch the border. We had the strongest border ever. I built 571 miles of wall. We're going to add another 200 in 3 weeks. It was all made, all fabricated. They sold it for 5 cents on the dollar. The wall was all fabricated. I built much more wall than I said I was going to build. But we did 571 miles. We had the strongest border in history. We had remain in Mexico. You couldn't come in. You had to stay in Mexico. All of these things out the window when this character came in. And look, he has no clue what he's doing. But he is surrounded by very smart fascists. And the only thing they know how to do is stay in power. That's about the only thing they're good at. But we're going to beat them big in 5 months.
Last question for you. We know you're busy. Keep up the fight at the trial because, I think you're adding more supporters every single day. I think it's backfired on them. This is a light question for you. I know you're a huge sports fan. I don't know if you got a chance to see the Tom Brady roast that it aired on Netflix or any of the segments. Robert Kraft, your old friend, told Vladimir Putin that he wanted his NFL Super Bowl ring back. Putin, he says, stole it. Have you ever been roasted like that? Are you surprised that Tom Brady, who I know you're a big fan of, took it? And would you ever want to do something like that?
Well, I was roasted on Comedy Central and long before I was president, actually, and it was not a pleasant evening, I will tell you. They roasted me. They roasted the hell out of me, but it's fun. Look, it was a good cause. Money went to charity. A lot of good things happened. But no, I was roasted. If you ever look at that one, you'll see what a roast is all about. But
Clay got roasted by The View recently, Mr. President.
I did.
So, it could happen.
That happens on a daily basis.
Yeah, exactly.
I was on Whoopi's movie. She made a movie, a basketball movie. So, could you do the movie for me? Could you do Joy Behar? What she would do for me, she'd do anything. All of a sudden, I run for politics, and they pretend like, gee, we hate. Check out Whoopi's movie. I said, take me out of your movie. I did a big cameo in Whoopi's movie. It's
you are still the best part of Home Alone 2, by the way. So for those of us who remember.
That's a good one. That was a very good one.
Mr. President, we know you got to go and defeat all the nonsense and win a huge election and make history again. Clay and Buck here with you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time as always.
Well, I appreciate you guys. You do a fantastic job, and we'll talk again soon. We're gonna have some other talks too. I know that.
That
so
sounds
thanks
like a
very
plan.
much, fellas.
Pick an
Thanks
event
so
you
much.
want us to come to. We'd be happy to be there on the road when you get out for the rallies. You're killing it.
We'll do it. They're starting very soon. That was a big one this week. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.